אני לא ציוני, אני יהודי. לא ציון. יהוד. אני יהוד, לא ציון. אני רוצה להיות יהודי כמו פעם, כמו לפני 150 שנה, שחיו פה בשלום בשמחה. שכל הפלסטינים יחזרו לפה. כולם יחזרו לכל המקומות, לתל אביב, הכל שייך לכם.
Welcome back to my channel. Before we get into today's video, subscribe, like, and don't forget to drop your comments at the end of this video. So in this video, I have quite a number of Jews expressing themselves and condemning Zionism. Now, they are literally denying Zionism and anything that has to do with it. In these number of videos I have compiled for you, you will hear different people saying that the state of Israel does not respect Jewish people and Jews are distancing themselves from the actions of the Israeli government. What is being done to Palestinian people, all in the name of Jewish people and the occupation, is totally wrong on a moral basis. Before all of this and the philosophy of Zionism, Jewish people lived in peace. Now, this is really an interesting video where a number of Jews are just expressing themselves on how bad they feel about what's being done to Palestinian people and how Zionism is bad and how Zionists are doing all these things in the name of the Jewish religion. Let's take a look at these videos for more context as some share experiences or what they have noticed. I will be right back.
People must know that the state of Israel does not represent the Jewish people. Jews should not be associated with the actions of the Israeli government. Of course, violence against anyone is never accepted. However, if the Zionists do care for the safety of Jews, they should stop calling themselves a Jewish state. This sets the false and dangerous impression that Jews are somehow extensions of Israel. It's wrong, dangerous, and must be stopped.
I am an anti-Zionist Jew. Israel says it's the state for Jews. Well, let's start with the fact that, one, not all Jews live there, and two, the majority of its citizens are not Jewish. I used to be a two-state solution. That was always my thing. I believe it's impossible now. I believe there has to be a one state for all of its people with equal rights, period. But I've been there. It's an apartheid system. I was allowed to use one road while other people weren't. I was allowed to have water while other people weren't. Not right. The time I was there was in 2017. I went to El Khalil, which everyone else calls Hebron. I refuse to call it that. I was in Ramallah. I went to the Kalandia checkpoint. I see what happens. I went to the Waldorf Hotel. This has been a lifelong resistance for me. It's something that I chose to do since I was 16 years old when I saw this cannot be. So yes, I know the intricacies, and when people say it's complicated and oh, don't get involved, it's too challenging. No, it's not. It's very easy. It's very simple. You don't have to go to Nablus the way I did. You don't have to go to Karam the way that I did. I wasn't allowed into Gaza, so I didn't go, but in those areas, Hebron, my God, Khalil, it was crazy, ludicrous. It's insane. How can our tax dollars pay for this? Colonialist and imperialist, they're all colonial settler countries, and this is why they stand together. For settlers that are from New Jersey, they're from New Jersey, they're from New York. Well, obviously our governments are not listening to us now, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm not contributing to any political campaign of anyone that does not come out in favor of the Palestinian people. I will not.
Hey Zionists, it's me, the anti-Zionist Jew that you keep telling over and over to go educate themselves. But do you really want me to go educate myself? Are you sure? Because if we're talking about education, we need to talk about the 9 years I spent in Jewish day school learning Hebrew and Jewish studies directly from Israelis and Zionists. We need to talk about the first time I went to Israel and fell in love with the culture there and strengthened my relationship to God. And then we need to talk about the second time I went to Israel on Birthright, where I visited HaZikaron and was told the horrific stories about literal teenagers who fought and died for their country. And then let's talk about my role as president of my synagogue's Jewish youth group and my multiple terms as a board member for my university's Hillel. But if we talk about those things, we also need to talk about the time I checked out a bunch of books about Israel and Palestine from the library after I was attacked on Twitter by some of my Muslim friends for supporting Israel. I left that conversation feeling like everything that I knew was biased, so I had to figure it out for myself. We also need to talk about the reaction I had to reading that the majority of the first Zionists believed that Palestinians would either assimilate into Jewish culture or flee to the surrounding Muslim countries. Like they're all the same. And let's talk about how that led me to do a semester-long research project in the first year of my master's program that I did on supporting Palestinian refugees as a social worker. Oh, and then the study that I designed in my second year of the program about bringing culturally sensitive dialectical behavior therapy to Palestine. That one involved so much scrutinizing over the structure of Palestinian society and how the heck I would even make that possible as a Jewish American. I read 50 to 60 academic papers and primary sources for that one. So no, I don't think you want my education. You want my ignorance. Because the complicity in excusing crimes against humanity in favor of a Jewish state depends on my lack of education. I'm not afraid to do the right thing, even if it means that my own people hate me. I'm proud to be Jewish, but I condemn the harm that my people have caused through the displacement and unaliving of millions. We will never be safe until we condemn the role we've had in destroying Palestinian lives. So I'm not ever going to stop speaking up.
My dad's side of the family is Jewish. My cousin and grandma on that side are both Zionists. My cousin is 40-something years old. She has spent the last 2 days messaging a creator on here, telling her that she's my cousin and no one in our family is Jewish. My dad's side is Christian all the way up, despite the fact that 3 weeks ago, her and I had a conversation about how inappropriate it was that her Catholic caretaker had put up Jesus candles in our Jewish grandmother's home. But now that I'm speaking out against what she believes in, and because I have a following, she's trying to discredit me by giving out personal family information. Zionists are going to do anything to discredit those speaking out. Anything. They will lie. They will make shit up. Please do your own research. I'm begging you to do your own research. I'm begging you to verify and recheck your research before you decide on a concrete decision. Zionists are going to do anything, okay? Anything. They are losing the PR war. They're going to do anything. They are more focused on tweeting and harassing and sending death threats than the very real humanitarian crisis that's going on, the genocide that is occurring. They don't even care about their own people that were killed at this point. They just want to argue. They're gonna do anything. I'm begging you guys to call your representatives, okay? All you need to do is download the 5 Calls app, put in your zip code. It will do the rest for you. It will give you a list of issues. It will give you information about those issues. It will give you the phone numbers of your representatives' offices based on your area code, and it will give you a script to read based on the issue you've picked and are calling about. Your voice matters. Your voice matters. I promise your voice matters. Please call your representatives.
Okay, my fellow Jewish loves, this is an anti-Zionist call to action. So a dear friend of mine has been studying Judaism for years and wants to convert, but they are not a Zionist. They've already reached out to local rabbis to try to get a rabbi who is willing to facilitate their conversion process, and these rabbis have refused. They've reached out to 2 rabbis so far, one I believe from a Reform synagogue and one from a Reconstructionist synagogue, and both rabbis have said they're not able to finalize a conversion process for someone who does not believe in the right of the State of Israel and the Zionist project to exist. And I don't know about y'all, but personally, I do not feel comfortable with a government who is currently facilitating a genocide against a vulnerable population to get to dictate who is and is not Jewish or who can and cannot convert to Judaism. So in classic rebellious Reconstructionist Jew fashion, we're going to do things a little differently. We will be hosting a community-endorsed conversion ceremony for this person. They will complete their mitzvah, they will read a Torah portion. But part of their conversion ceremony will also be recognizing the right of Palestine to exist. We're hoping to have local Palestinian activists there to co-facilitate this ceremony. We are telling this person and anyone else who wants to convert, you don't need a Zionist rabbi or a rabbi from a Zionist synagogue to tell you that you're Jewish. Your Jewish community can do that. When systems of oppression and violence refuse to validate our Judaism, we can do that for one another. So this call to action is threefold. First, what aspects of a conversion ceremony do you think are really important for activist Jews who want to convert to Reform or Reconstructionist Judaism but are not themselves Zionists? 2, are there any Reform or Reconstructionist rabbis from anywhere in the United States who would be willing to fly in and facilitate this conversion ceremony? It will be in April of 2024, and we are crowdsourcing funds to help fly a rabbi out. And finally, what words of encouragement, of validation, of care, of love do you have for people who are converting to Judaism right now, but do not themselves ascribe to a Zionist political ideology? What do you want to say to your pro-Palestine comrades who are still converting to Judaism? We are imagining a softer world. We are imagining a world of faith-based agency where we actually have control over what our Judaism means to us, and we can co-facilitate and validate and affirm each other's Judaism without the state of Israel having any say over what that looks like. Part of this ceremony, part of this service, will work to also validate Palestine and affirm Palestine's right to exist safely, absent the control, violence, oppression, and marginalization perpetrated against them by the State of Israel. And we're also trying to set up sibling or cousin ceremonies so that anyone local who wants to convert to Islam can have their conversion also facilitated at the same time. You do not need a Zionist to tell you that you are Jewish enough. Your anti-Zionist Jewish community can do that for you.
Now, we have seen how real believers in Judaism mourn the crimes being done to Palestinians by the State of Israel, as these violations are clearly barred by their faith. In our religion, unaliving and stealing are clearly forbidden. Israel, on the other hand, establishes its state by taking it from Arabs. That's why we are crying with the Palestinians, said a rabbi and spokesperson for a group founded in Jerusalem. Now, there are many people who confuse Judaism and Zionism and are confused about this. Zionism is the ideology of the State of Israel, which tries to present itself as the Jewish state. They claim that they represent Jewish religion. They claim that they are speaking in the name of God. They claim that their voice, the voice around the world of Jewish people that have an attachment with God or the Torah. That's not true. Referring to the first 5 books of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, those who speak up against this situation are often labeled anti-Semitic or haters of the Jewish people and their religion. Judaism and Zionism are fundamentally opposed to each other. Now, in 1942, a number of dissident Reform rabbis founded the American Council for Judaism, the first and only Jewish organization created to fight against Zionism and the establishment of a Jewish state, emphasizing the purely religious nature of Judaism and unequivocally rejecting Jewish nationalism. Now, the council supported free Jewish immigration and equal rights for Jews throughout the world. For Palestine specifically, it advocated establishment of a democratic state wherein all citizens, regardless of their religion, would enjoy equal political rights, summarizing both the history of Zionism and the history of American Jews. Koski traces the effects on the Zionist movement and the personalities that shaped the leadership of the council. Its position towards Zionism has particular contemporary relevance in understanding the historical relationship between Israel and the Palestinians. Now, anti-Zionist Jews are frequently dismissed, especially in Israel, as self-hating Jews or even as Jewish anti-Semites. I completely disagree. To see them as such is simplistic, inexact, and only encumbers the understanding of a growing ideological phenomenon in contemporary Jewish life, also supported, strange as it may seem, by some Israelis, mostly academicians. And one should not forget the distinctive kind of anti-Israelism found among ultra-Orthodox Jews. But this is beyond. Jewish anti-Israelism is an expression of the complexities of contemporary Jewish identity, the dramatic events of the 20th century, Jewish mass migrations, the destruction of European Jewry, the establishment of Israel, upset whatever sociological equilibrium existed in Jewish societies and brought up new and unavoidably clashing cultural and ideological tendencies. Among them is Jewish and anti-Israelism, which is basically anti-Zionism in new garb. Now, some of the utterances of representative figures of that turned the outright weird but not untypical example. In February 2015, after attacks against Jews in Paris, Prime Minister Netanyahu called French Jewry to migrate to Israel. In reaction, the German Jewish figures of that turned the outright weird but not untypical example. In February 2015, after attacks against Jews in Paris, Prime Minister Netanyahu called French Jewry to migrate to Israel. In reaction, a German Jewish professor, Micah Bramlich, published an article in a German journal under the title Israel, I Remain Here. As a German among Germans, Netanyahu's call, he wrote, represented a Jewish collective unaliving wish of Jews coming to Israel to get unalived together. In this opinion, such a longing runs like a red thread through Jewish history. Zionism is a 19th century political ideology that emerged in a moment where Jews were defined as irrevocably outside of a Christian Europe. European anti-Semitism threatened and ended millions of Jewish lives in pogroms, in exile, and in the Holocaust. Now, though through the study and action, through deep relationship with Palestinians fighting for their own liberation, and through our own understanding of Jewish safety and self-determination, we have come to see that Zionism was a false and failed answer to the desperately real question many of the ancestors faced of how to protect Jewish lives from unaliving anti-Semitism in Europe. Now, while it had many strains historically, the Zionism that took hold and stands today is a settler colonial movement establishing an apartheid state where Jews have more rights than others. The history teaches us how dangerous this can be. Palestinian disposition and occupation are by design. Zionism has meant profound trauma for generations, systematically separating Palestinians from their homes, land, and each other. Zionism in practice has resulted in unalivings of Palestinian people, Asian villages and olive groves destroyed, families who live just a mile away from each other separated by checkpoints and walls, and children holding onto the keys of the homes from which their grandparents were forcibly exiled. Because the founding of the State of Israel was based on the idea of a land without people, Palestinian existence itself is resistance. We are all the more humbled by the vibrance, resilience, and the steadfastness of Palestinian life, culture, and organizing, as it is a deep refusal of a political ideology founded on erasure. Now, in sharing the stories with one another, we see that the ways Zionism has also harmed Jewish people, many have learned from Zionism to treat their neighbors with suspicion, to forget the ways Jews built home and community wherever they found themselves to be. Jewish people had long and integrated histories in the Arab world and North Africa, living among and sharing community language and custom with Muslims and Christians for thousands of years. We have come to the end of the video. Please feel free to share your thoughts on what you think about this video. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.